All right. Everyone keeps getting mad at me saying that MF Ghost is the best anime on the planet, and some people are even saying it's better than Initial D. Um, I don't want to hate the show. I know I said it like a million times. I think the show sucks. Oh my God, why do I always get a vibration on my phone every single time I try to make a video? I'm trying to use Streamlabs. This is my first time like using a face cam. But yeah, no, and this I'm gonna just do clips here because just so we can get everybody on the same page. Um, yeah, like people are saying, why are you comparing Initial D to MF Ghost? Just because it's a sequel doesn't mean you should be comparing the two. They're two different things. It shows how the writers evolved. It shows how things change in 25 years. It shows that, Initial D, it's for new viewers. All right, well, if you're gonna come out with a sequel to a show and use all the source material from the original show, like the characters, and trying to implement like the old idea of the cars, and trying to use the old plot as the platform to make a new plot for the show, then it should be open to critique. Yeah, they say the show sucks, but people are like, "Oh my God, MF Ghost changed my life. It's the best show on the planet." I watched up until episode 6. I got bored and I stopped watching it. And I'm gonna look at some clips of the show and show you comparisons back and forth because just so we can get everybody on the same page, you can like the show. I'm not saying you can't like the show, but what I'm just telling you is it doesn't hit the same way. People are saying it's just as good or it's just a good anime. It's not even a good anime. It's not, and I'm gonna show you a couple of reasons why. It would probably be a good anime if the bar wasn't set super high by being linked to Initial D. If it was his own independent, like race car, just car anime on its own, it would have done a lot better. But the fact that it's like linked to Initial D just doesn't like give any oomph. The story's not there. This might be a personal thing. Maybe they could have made it work. I don't know. The animation is not something that I like. I don't like the way that it's uh what the fuck? MF Ghost, my rage is untethered and knows no bounds. Yeah, it seems like this guy knows what's up. I watched the video apparently. Yeah, this guy actually did a really good overview on why MF Ghost wasn't even that good. People keep saying, "Hey, that's my video." So wait a second. If I search if I search MF Ghost, my video is on the top, and this one. Wow. Would you look at that? If you search MF Ghost, you see my videos. Cool. Yeah. So this is going to be like a reasons video, and I'm going to be doing comparisons of Initial D and MF Ghost, just cause. So let's look at a really iconic scene, the four-wheel drift scene. 86号車前方に大平台のヘアピンカーブが来る Notice the camera angle shots and how the shots are being taken by a drone instead of just a floating camera somewhere on the screen. 86号車前方に大平台のヘアピンカーブがクリアに浮かび上がる That was the most uneventful entry of a four-wheel drift I've ever seen. So this part was cool, where it pushed in the camera to the car, and it was gonna get ready for this epic braking, and then the wheel starts to skid, he starts looking shocked, and then it goes into like this very It's weird because the camera's close up on the car, but it seems like the car moves a little slower. Again, oh god, I shouldn't have paused there. It does this like close on the bumper shot, which would be cool, but it seems very slow. I don't know if this was if this was supposed to be in slow motion, or if this was the real speed. Okay. So what's funny about that is they actually just did a direct comparison between two scenes, and this scene, which looks like it was taken from the Legends series. Watch this. Did you see how the camera pacing was of how the shot was taken? Like, oh, that's cool. It's showing the wheel. They're kind of showing an outside view. That's slow. This is okay. It's just very stagnant shots. Nothing's really happening. And then, bam, right here. Braking, sliding, cameras moving, cars outside. Like, did you see the comparison of the two different types of shots for the same, more or less the same type of clip? It's just a very like underwhelming way of recording a race or a drift, especially something that's supposed to be really impactful, like the 8.6's four-wheel drift. Like it's supposed to be something that like pops. Like, oh shit, I know what that is. Like it's funny they had to throw the nostalgia trip in there to kind of remind you, which I know it's for the nostalgia. I personally like that. I like the throwbacks and stuff, but that's the most highest viewed clip on the internet, is that clip of the four-wheel drift of the 8.6. And it's funny because that's the clip of Initial D, which the only reason why the show seems to be where it is just because it's using Initial D as a launch pad, which it should as a sequel. But if you're going to make a sequel, in my opinion, you need to have the sequel be just as good or better. Like, yes, it's not a perfect world, and you're not always going to have a sequel that's going to be better. It's going to be shit. But you have to make sure that you're trying your best, and unfortunately in this case it just didn't hit very well. It didn't land. See this very wide shot? It makes everything look like it's moving a lot slower than it actually is. It doesn't look very eventful. Like, the camera is slowly... So, I know this is not Initial D, and a lot of people are going to say that. An Initial D... The reason why I use Initial D as comparison is because it was just predecessor, and it was better. And it came out in the 90s. The 90s. And it still had a better sense of the animation and the movement than this seemed to have. This is too smooth to where it doesn't very hit impactfully. It's just kind of this is very linear, like baby smooth transitioning. Like smooth drift to the outside, the camera's slowly moving around, and he exits the corner. Weird. So let's look at a let's look at the scene of Takumi revving it up to 11,000 RPMs. This is season 2.
There's nothing more powerful than you making your thing happen. Really going for... What's up?
Like, okay, watch this. He's not even drifting, right? This is just how the race happens.
What's up?
Focused on the car, showing the RPM. He's staring at them. The camera's shaking. Revving up to 11,000. Showing the shifting points in a very, like, see the 3x3? The camera's shaking. The camera's at a close point on the car. The camera's shaking to show how fast the car's actually moving. He, again, shows impact, shows power. Let's see if we can get a drift. Let's do C121. This was like the biggest drift. Camera shaking, back to the RPMs, close up on the 8.6, showing the RPMs again on the back corner. They're driving fast, camera's close. They're coming up on the next turn. Hard braking, panning over to the face. Hard braking, drift. Now this was a wide angle, but see how the flip is like moving around? Look. Camera shaking, the car's panning into the screen. You know, it looks like they're going really fast. See how the cars are like moving in and out? It's not super linear. Like there's some movement going on. It doesn't look like there's just progressive drift. It looks like very gritty. The eyes up and down shows like how they're focused, they're serious. Even stuff like that, they realized, watch this. This is a clip that they would do in MF Ghost. See that long progressive drift? See how it just doesn't hit very well? It doesn't feel very progressive. But what Initial D does, it picks back up that intensity by doing this overhead shot with the camera still shaking and the car's panning in. We have internal dialogue. Shows the road. Shows the car moving. Some slow-mo shots, why not? Plus, the Eurobeat is great. That's a cool shot. The exit was wicked cool. Let's look back at this drift. He enters from the wide angle. Now he's in the midsection, and there's no clip of the exit. It's just very. All right, let's look at this. So we got a shot of the road, very wide angle, very wide angle. We have this guy who seems to be into it. Very wide angle. Very wide angle. This one's a little bit better. It's a little closer. It shows. See how the trees are moving fast? Well, okay, so no movement here, just the cars. The trees in this scene looks a little better. You can tell that they have there's no camera shake, so we don't know how impactful it is. And the problem with this animation style is it's almost like not gritty enough to show the roughness of speed, but we can perceive speed because look how fast the trees are kind of moving, so we can tell that they're booking it. Even on a straightaway, by the way, this is another problem I had. A GT86 would never ever be able to accelerate enough to keep up with these cars. The way that the course is set up, so is this actually Akina Pass? Well, anyway, Akina Pass is a lot of turns, a lot of hairpins. It's tighter, and the 8.6 in the show, the entire point of the 8.6. So because a lot of people don't actually know, and especially the people who are going to watch this video, I work on cars all the time. I like to take cars to the racetrack. I'm no in no means professional, but I understand the mechanics of how the engineering of how speed in a car works. So the 8.6 was made for the 8.6 AE86, which is the 1986 Toyota Corolla SR5, was made for tight, close knit, acceleration. Wasn't made for straight line speed. It was made for handling. It's made for drifting. That's what it was for. That was intended, what Bunta built the car for in the show, and how he made Takumi adapt. The 4AG engine, which in real life only makes about 100 horsepower, give or take. In the show, it makes about 140. Probably it was tuned a little bit, whatever. 140 horsepower power out of a 1.6 liter engine. In the show, he apparently installed this Bunta said this, he had to upgrade the transmission. It had a little bit of a shorter gear ratio. Even Ryosuke said it in the first race. Ryosuke said it's got gears in it like a rally car. Rally cars have very quick gear ratios because they need to maintain and keep speed in the power band. They don't need top speed. They need to be able to manipulate through the corners as fast as possible. So they need to keep RPMs high, and instead of having super long gears, they're really short. So it's like instead of blah, blah, blah. So they're really short. And I'm sure the rear end gear in the A86 is like a really short gear too. It's probably like a four. I'm gonna guess it's like a 410 or like a 450 something. It's even more. It's a 585. So that's really a 585 gear ratio really puts down a lot of all the torque to the rear tires. This one's a 430. Oh wait, no, that's final drive. Wait, gear ratios 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, reverse, final drive. Is this for the tranny? Well, it could be a this one could be a 430, but I don't know. Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, um, yeah, so the AE86 was made for the downhill. Akina was a downhill pass race. Um, Akina itself was a mountain pass specifically made for the downhill. If the AE86 had to race any of the people that he raced going uphill, he would have 110% lost. A 140 horsepower AE86, it doesn't matter that the transmission gears are shorter. It doesn't matter about the rear end gear. It doesn't matter what kind of tires you have. It does not matter. The car can never, it doesn't matter how good of a driver you are. Actually, it does because if you're a pro driver and it depends, unless the other guy you're driving must really suck. Um, but say you had a GTR R32 um, uphill race versus an AE86 like Takumi's, the GTR would win all day. It would not be a fair. It wouldn't even be fair. Um, Downhill though, now we're talking. The show did a really good representation of that, and it's actually true. What would happen? A GTR's brakes, because of how heavy the car is, would it would definitely it would 110% wear out, and the 86 would beat it in an endurance race. 100%. I would 100% agree with that. And but the type of car, the type of track that these passes are, where it's all straightaways, these cars would just like, especially an Alfa Romeo 4C or whatever, would or a Ferrari. The grip to weight ratio thing, forget about that because there's no such thing in real life. That rule doesn't work. That rule doesn't exist. It was just made up for the show. Even if that rule existed in real life, these cars would still absolutely 110% destroy a GT86. A GT86 is a Subaru Boxer motor inside a Toyota car, and it's a 2 liter. I believe it only makes like 190 horsepower, like 140 pound-feet of torque. It's not fast. It's a 6 speed. It's actually lethargic. So let's look up 20. Let's even look up the 0 to 60 just to put it in perspective. So, okay, first of all, top speed is 145 miles per hour. Um, Acceleration 0 to 62 miles per hour is 7.6 seconds. What a weird. Hang on. I still have a hard time believing it's even 145. Um, let's look at a quarter mile was. Jesus Christ, I can't understand this. 140 miles an hour. Okay, fair enough, I guess. Um, 0 to 100 is 28 seconds. That's really slow. Engine type, torque, wheelbase. Can we have give me something here. Why is it 0 to 62 is 7.6 seconds? It's an 8 second 0 to 60. It's like a 7.8 0 to 60, whatever. Which is slow, like lethargically slow. The car is just really fun to drive. So in the show, they said, "Oh, I raced in MF Ghost before, whatever." Yeah, no, that it doesn't make any sense because it doesn't work like that. The car, maybe if the car was modified to an extent, it would be able to somewhat compete. Um, but it's not. It's as far as we know in the show, it's stock, and a stock boxer motor. People are saying, well, if you build the motor, whatever, you can still compete. It's like, okay, understood, but it's stock in the show. As far as I can see, it doesn't even have an air intake on it. They showed us a picture of the engine bay. Um, I don't know. There's a scene where it shows a picture of the engine bay. In like in I guess I think it's this episode, and It's stock. The engine's stock. It was stock inside the episode. So it's impossible that this car on this type of track would ever be able to compete with any of these cars. I'm telling you. Like this and that's not me saying I'm hating or whatever. It's just physically impossible. And I know it's an anime. I know it's an anime. And an anime anything can happen, which I'm okay with as long as it's done right. Initial D has had plenty of fair shares of like weird moments that's like, how the fuck did he do that? Like I remember when I was watching the race between Ryosuke and Keiichi Sudo in his Evo, like he figured out his weakness. His weakness is that he couldn't turn left. I'm just like, that's so fucking stupid. But it was just in its own cheesy way. It was just funny, and it didn't take away that much from the show's actual value to watch.
突入前に抜かれるようなことがあれば、かまぼこストレートでスリップストリームを使って。
So they're trying to sell on the argument that the reason why the GT86 will keep up is that he's caught in a slipstream. So what a slipstream is. This is called a slipstream. The car in front is taking all the air and wind resistance away from the car behind it. And the car behind it is able to accelerate faster due to the lack of wind resistance. The only thing is, though, is that the GT86 would never actually be able to pass any of the cars in front of him because the slipstream is the only thing that he has going for him. He's not going to be able to pass. Because the second he tries to pass, the wind is going to catch his car and he's going to slow down. A very boring shot of the car. Very wide camera angle. This is not an impossible thing to do if the car was able to keep up. The way they went about this shot, though, was very anticlimactic. It looked like they were trying to make something impactful. So what happened here is the GT86 did something called late braking, and in a lighter, lightweight car, you can do this. That's a very 100% reasonable thing you can do. Late braking is a thing that's used in all forms of racing, even in heavier cars. But it's a lot easier to do when you're competing against cars that are heavier than you and you're able to late brake. The only problem is like this Lotus and those Alphas probably weigh something similar to the GT86. You're telling, wow, that the Lotus Elise weighs less, a lot less. See, it's even a stretch because is that an Alpha 4C that she's driving? Yeah, I mean the GT86 is actually the heaviest 24. It's 1100. 725. The GT86 is the heaviest car there. So it's just like it's a very boring. Yeah, okay, so there's the shock and bam, but the slow-mo shot I'm okay with. But then kind of that wide angle again. Like give us something like, you know,
こっちが動くよりも先に動かれた。
close up, zooming to a wide angle, still very slow pacing. Yep, the close up on the car, it's the same shots. It's very just kind of pick up.
サンドイッチフォーメーションに行こうだ。かまぼこストレートまでそいつを抑え込むぞ。
オッケー兄貴。
At this point of accelerating in a straight line, again, I'll say it again, the GT86 would have been far left behind. Let's look up real life. Let's look up, is there a, Lotus Elise, all right. Let's look up Nürburgring Lotus. The Lotus Elise 20, 220 finished a lap of the Nürburgring 7 minutes and 51 seconds. That's the fastest lap. Is that the fastest lap time in Nürburgring? Well, okay, let's just use this as a comparison. So the average speed was 91 miles an hour views. So I don't know, whatever. Okay, so let's just use this in comparison. The Nürburgring is a super long racetrack in Germany, and so many types of cars drive on that. And what year? So it's close to the one. That's the car. Okay, so uh, 8 minutes and 44 seconds. So the GT86 was a full, like, almost over a full minute slower, which is ridiculous. And who knows if this thing was stock either. It just, the car is out of, here's a BRZ, which is the same platform. It did a second faster. Average speed was slower, faster with stock cars.
Mobile games are going big.
Under 8 minutes.
Free Fire Max is now available on PC.
Look how freaking fast these people are going. Yeah, that sluggish acceleration. That car cannot get out of his way. He's flooring it right now. It just, the GT86, it would never be able to keep up. It's just not the same. It wouldn't work. Like here, right here, these cars should be gone. Let's look up. It still has a 118 base horsepower, which is not that good, but the car doesn't weigh anything. So let's do the equation of power to weight. The power to weight ratio. What is the power to weight ratio? It's horsepower divided by weight. Let's see if the specs are. Let's see what the specs are. I don't know what kilograms are to. Is this like 2,400 pounds? No way. 3,700 pounds? That is insane. Three, all right. Zero point zero 0.053. 86.43. 86.43. 0.053. So for every pound, it's 0. For every pound, it's 0.053 horsepower. So it's 1598. 1598. What was it? 110? And I don't even know what year that is. That Lotus Elise, what year? It's a 2GR, which is 350 horsepower. I know what a 2GR is. A 2GR comes in like the RAV4. That's an insane. That's a really good V6. Is this true? Well, what year is it? Because the weight might be wrong. That what year? What year? Fuck is this shit? Give me, give me a year. Oh, is it not an Elise? It's an Exige. Is that the same thing? I'm assuming it's a newer one. So it's the V6, which is the 2GR. 2015 to 2016. Let's just say 20. 350, 345 horsepower. Oh, wait. We gotta get the body weight. It's still 120. It's still lighter. 2,400 pounds. 2480. It's more than double. It's impossible. This wouldn't happen no matter the slipstream or not.
このあり地獄のようなフォーメーションを
Again, just constant long,
意味は絶対飛び込ませね
a straight line.
うまいブロ
Everything
ッ
in
キングで
this
す
is a
16
straight
番の
line.
ロータス駅紳士思い切ってタイヤを使ってやらないとルートは開けそうもない藤原先生は言ってましたどんなに狭く見えていても車3台
I know that this is the style that the anime decided to take. I know. I just am not. I don't think, in my personal opinion, I don't think the writers and animators had a fun time making this. There is a lot. There's a lot that goes into it, I'm sure. Like deadlines and stuff like that. They probably couldn't animate the way they wanted to because of deadlines. They probably had a budget. They probably had to just crank it out the doors for MF Ghost fans, whatever. Oh, what the fuck? What the? They probably just have to crank it out the door, whatever. I know there's a lot of work that has to be involved, but in my personal opinion, it's almost like if you don't have the resources to attempt to make something that you want to be good, it's not. I don't think it was worth it. I think the Initial D should have just been left alone. People are saying the manga is really good. I don't know. I didn't read it. Maybe I'll read it and review it. I don't know. Probably not, but who knows? Maybe. It's just.
横に並べるだけの幅があれば抜けるって
Very slow moving
藤
camera.
原先生のような神業は今の僕にはないけれどここには3&ハーフの十分なスペース
And the
があり
way
ます
that it's interesting to me because the way that the character is drawn, it doesn't like it looks like he's intense, but since it's such a wide shot on his body, it doesn't like they do a lot more of this than just like the glancing over the eyes thing like they do in Initial D because Initial D it's like the eyes is what connects you to like your level of seriousness. Here is
十
very
分なスペースがありますタイヤを何度もいじ
Here
め
we
たく
go.
ないので
So okay, so his eyes kind of
That's
squinting
the
now. Okay,
cinema.
now he's getting somewhat serious. Okay. The look on his face is very dead sometimes. Kanata's look on his yeah, see that? Sometimes like he looks like he's dead. Like you know how in anime they like gray out the eyes to show that someone died or something like that. Sometimes his stone face doesn't make him look interested ever in anything. And this was how they kind of did Takumi. I have like fat fingers or something. I'm terrible at typing. What the fuck is? Can you just give me a race?
Ascension WoW is a private server where you forge your own custom class
I wanna
in a
play WoW.
classic vanilla.
親父が先輩 車の挙動宿命だろう。
誰も知らねえのか。
Give me a race.
なんでだ。エキゾーストだけでわかるのか。本当にお前んちの車か。わかる。
あそこを流し。
じりじりと離されていくぜ。
でかい口叩くだけあってうまいな中里。
Even stage 1 of Initial D did a better job. Like, okay, I know this is 90s. But see, just when Initial D does their stagnant shots and they look at somebody's face, they seem a lot more intense. They don't look like they're dead. Kanata just always has this like stone-faced, like dead on the inside, numb look. A little more focused, not dead. Like he's glancing over, his eyes are to the side. He's always like again, not like stone face like he's dead. And this is like the 90s anime style. And season 1 was like a terrible graphic wise, but it was like good in its own sense. Like compared to modern day standards.
中里もいい根性してるぜ。あのヘビーな32で猛然とダウンヒルを攻めてるんだからな。
See, like even Nakazato in that one clip, see what they did on how like he even looks somewhat dead inside?
あのヘビーな32で猛然とダウンヒルを攻めてる。
No, actually, no, he looks more alive because of his eyebrows, the way he smirked, his lips are like... See how it keeps going back and forth, back and forth? It's taking as much of it as it can from its animation style, and it's trying to make it as impactful as possible. Like they're doing the wide angle shots, but they're like panning back and forth. They don't want to stay stuck on it for too long, whereas MS Ghost progressively the pacing of the shots are way too long. See how they don't stay on a single shot for too long? Like the pacing is perfectly good, where as you can have enough long shots, close shots, mid shots, on the bumper shots, accelerating shots, braking shots, base shots, and it's all like paced perfectly. The slow panning over the face. His eyes are blinking, he's alive. See how the camera's shaking? It helps show that they're moving fast. This is very minor. This would never happen. What the? How did he do that? So they were in a straight line. He was on the inside? What did he do? He moved to the inside. Look at it. Look at the car. Inside. Then he's gone. And he's on the outside somehow. I'm not tripping. Watch this. Ready? moves to the inside.
消えた
Gone.
86号車が消えた
兄貴
How did he get to the outside?
なんだと
There's no way that that car would be able to pass on the outside. This would not happen. Even the car. Yeah, it warped. It did warp. What? There's a reason why stage 4 and 5 of Initial D didn't do so well, because the Fujiwara zone stuff, which this looks very similar to, I don't even know what this is. I've never seen this episode, but this looks just like the Fujiwara zone stuff where he just kind of teleports. If you jerk the car suspension, there's like I said, there's a reason why stage 4 and 5 of Initial D died off. It didn't do well, and these were some of the reasons why that was a thing. If you jerk the car suspension like that, you're unsettling the suspension and you're actually making it worse. That was just weird. It's weird because it looks like they want to go for a sense of realism, but that just didn't look anything reasonable.
こっちはロータスだぞ
And see this right now? So the whole point of this is where the plot hole stuff starts coming into play. Now the scene is illegitimate. It doesn't make sense anymore because they were so concerned about the slipstream stuff. Okay, well now the GT86 is in the lead. But now I guess the slipstream stuff doesn't matter now because I guess he's no longer affected by wind. I know Takumi had amazing plot armor, but at least there was some type of basis behind it. Like, he was always a downhill racer and he was just really experienced, and a lot of the times he was nearly close to fucking losing a lot, and he knew it too. Kanata, it's just the Mary Sue, like he's super confident, but not even in a sense of confidence. He doesn't really have a sense of conflict, or doesn't really seem to be expressing it.
曲がることにかけては他のどんなメーカーにも引けは取らない
Yeah, like, if that was the case, they would be able to pass him now because of the slipstream stuff.
コリン・チャップマンの時代から脈々と続くロータスの伝統なんだトヨタの86なんかに劣る点は一つもねえんだ
Yeah,
6号車がこれほどタイヤのグリップを確保していたとは思いもよらないことです非力なマシンゆえに誰よりもタイヤを酷使しているものと考えていましたが
The Eurobeat is okay. I don't mind the Eurobeat. It's alright. It's just like whatever. It's hard to like say because the Eurobeat should go hand in hand with the driving, and it kind of does because it's a slower style Eurobeat with a slower camera angle style.
まさに世界は広いと言わざるを得ません英国の名門 RDRS が生んだスーパーエリート
かけるよりブースへ
I find it so hard to believe that the 86 was able to gain that much ground. Let's look at some more clips. Hang on. Even the Initial D Legend series did a way better job. Like, I know not a lot of people are fans of the Initial D Legend series, but even the Initial D Legend series did such a great job at the impact of the driving.
何回か気を失いかけたこんなに変わるなんて
Very slow shot of the wheels. It's hard to do anything here because it's a straight line all the time.
エンジンには手を加えないと言っていたのに以前より確実にパワフルになっている
Very slow, wide drift angle.
確実に上がっているショックアブソーバーが絶妙な動
Looks
き
like
を
it's
す
got
る
coilovers on it.
ドッグファイトになった時にこの足は頼もしい
Is he racing right now?
これなら思う存分暴れることができる
Hey, the Alpine passed him. Wow, so Kanata is not as much as we thought. Oh, it's a test run, that's why.
こんな強引なパッシング
It's a test run. It's not an actual race.
Just a moment
Of course.
走行中に感情的になることは
And it's so weird when he goes back to talking English. Very wide, yeah, we can tell he's moving fast because of how the trees are. Very wide. It's too smooth. It's too smooth. All right, we're in. Snap the camera. Do something. It's like the linear camera is like what's kind of ruining the shots. Let's look at this. I'll give you a comparison. So this is the scene where Takumi. This is Initial D Legends 3.
エクシーが頭だしゃあ口に食いついてるさあどうするどう攻める外からじゃ絶対抜けねえぜインに行けインかアウトか
Camera pans in. We're on the headlights. The headlights flash and glare. Face cam moves to the outside. Okay. They're side by side. Wide angle shot. Okay.
あれじゃインをつくのは無理だ
It's working like a build-up. Okay, see how the animation style does it justice because it looks like the manga style, but with the old style combined. So it pans into the hood, pans into the face, pans into Takumi, moves into Takumi. The road moving fast, flips, braking, double camera, multiple cameras. We have movement happening. We're panning in. We pan back out. SC's ahead.
インが絶対有利だ
Tire grip, tire slipping. It's gritty, it's raw.
外に膨らんでいくマジかよ出口の方がきついのにスピードが乗りすぎているんだ
Eye shot, steering wheel, RPM, headlight, turn, corner, 86 in. We're moving in. Weird lighting, but it works, I guess. The drift, they come close, they're almost touching. He's drifting, he's passing. Look at all the stuff going on. This is like, all right, wide angle, shift, turn, another wide angle zooming in, a face, a wide shot of the road, a foot. Snap the camera, do something. It's too linear. It's better, but it's not snappy. Slow wide angle, back to the face. Alright, the pedal action motion's never gonna get old. Do something with the camera stays in the same spot. Move the camera. The camera needs to be moving. The problem is they're making it look like you're recording it from a drone.
When my patients experience very dry skin, I recommend La Roche-Posay Lipicard Body Cream. One application a day keeps very dry skin.
So bam, like all these shots. Internal dialogue happening. Back to the outside shot. Back to the road. Back to the tire. Moving to the side. Back to Takumi's face. Back to the outside grip. 886 is coming in. It looks like there's a lot more shots here. Back to the road. Mako. Back to Takumi steering. Back to Soleil. 886 takes the inside. Shows the inside. Cuts the outside. Does another slow-mo shot. Same shot. Another, alright, straight line. Very wide angle. We move in, we move back out. It just doesn't, it's not impactful. Like, yeah, like the animation style is not doing it any justice. It's so baby smooth. It doesn't give you that sense of like, fuck yeah. Moving in, moving out, very linear. It doesn't seem as intense. The pacing is very slow. I think I'm proving my point. But the pacing is super slow. MF Ghost Angels Scene. This is in MF Ghost. It's not even on YouTube. I can't find it. So in MF Ghost, there's another scene. Hey, let's watch this. That's a cool car. That's a wicked cool car. Ooh. 350? Small block? I have no idea. Cool. There isn't even Oh my god. It's a requirement in life. See how strange this is? This is exactly how it is in the show. In real life it's more acceptable, but it's just super awkward. Alright, that's that. Okay. Yeah. They completely slaughtered Takami's reputation. Watch this.
私の取材には一つサプライズがあります。なんとドニントンのアカデミーには日本人の講師が一人在籍していたというのです。彼の名は匠藤原。
藤原匠ですって。本当なんですかそれは。
ええ、その名を聞いてピンときました。悲運のラリーストと呼ばれた彼に違い
They called Takami the tragic rallyist. Let's see why.
ないと。
私は藤原君とは浅からぬ縁と言いますか、親交がありました。
渋川市出身。20歳で単身海を渡って
He went overseas to compete in a British Rally Championship. While he struggled on gravel, he was unbeatable on tarmac. Why would he struggle on gravel?
3年目で英国の国内タイトルを奪取しています。
彼らしいですよね。
あまりの速さゆえにファンがつけたニックネームがフライングジャン。
英国人らしいウィットです。
そして WRC フル参戦のシート獲得と、そこまでは順風満帆だったんですが。
I find it hard to believe that Takami had a hard time struggling on gravel. He was always the type, like he could.
The map.
My new set of wheels. I might lose this one.
Let's look at my own video. So this is actual words that were said. These tires are actually slippery. Makes it easier for me to see the car's ultimate capabilities. Proficient on driving on terrible traction surface conditions. In the rain, water covering the whole road.
これがついさっきまで女ボケしてたやつの走りか。無理しねえとかなんとか抜かしやがったくせに、こんな走りが高み取っちゃ普通なのかよ。しかも雨と夜で何も見えねえ。どうやって走ってんだよ。真っ暗で道路なんかどこにあるのかマジにわかんねえじゃねえか。
Driving in the rain. Drifting, no problem.
.4 ズバッといく。やりにくいな。だけどこの条件は先行する86の方がきついはずだ。いつどこで滑るかわからないからな。走りにくい。こうなったら滑るよりこっちから滑らせていくか。早めに後ろを出して4つとも滑らせていきゃいいんだ。なんてやつだ。
That's him drifting on leaves because it's easier for him to drift.
英国人らしいウィットです。
そして WRC フル参戦のシート獲得と、そこまでは順風満帆だったんですが、ワークスマシンのファンがつけたニックネームがフライングしています。
彼らしいですよね。
あまりの速さゆえにファンがつけたニックネームがフライングジャン。
英国人らしいウィットです。
海を渡って英国ラリー選手権に参戦しまして、グラベルには弱点もありましたが、
Struggled on gravel, was unbeatable on tarmac. I find it hard to believe that he struggled on gravel.
国内タイトルを奪取しています。
彼らしいですよね。
あまりの速さゆえにファンがつけたニックネームがフライングジャン。
英国人らしいウィットです。
そして WRC フル参戦のシート獲得と、そこまでは順風満帆だったんですが、ワークスマシンのテスト中、ドライブシャフトの破損という不慮のアクシデントに見舞われ、マシンもろとも谷底に落下して大怪我を。
His drive shaft broke. That's the way you sent him off. He had a broken drive shaft.
長期の入院とリハビリを余儀なくされ、競技生活を。
He retired from racing. Do you know how many accidents racers get into and still want to race? Like, you don't just stop racing. It's an interesting concept.
その後のことは関係者に尋ねてもよくわか
And
ら
that was like 4 or 5 years after. This happened like 4 or 5 years after the events of Initial D.
消息不明となってしまうわけですが、それから10年以上の時を経て、こんな形でその名前に再び遭遇することになろうとは思いもしませんでした。ラリーストの藤原がなぜレーシングスクールの講師なのかには
I like the fact that he was a teacher. I wish they showed him.
疑問も残りますが、
いえ、同じだということです。公道を走るラリーもフォーミュラカ
Look
ー
at
も
these shots,
車を
man.
走らせる基本
I
は
know this is
荷重移動。
it's funny because they can have this slow it's actually hilarious how this works. They can have this slow type of dialogue over these racing scenes because that's how slow the racing is.
コントロールだということですよ。
なるほど。その悲運の天才藤原匠と片桐彼方が師弟関係にあると考えるだけでワクワクしてしまいますね。
今はともかく嬉しいです。今も彼が元気でいてくれるならそれだけで。
Goldfish and chips.
最後尾の車がゲート。
These angels are the weirdest thing ever.
さあレースは2周目。
Eurobeats
再
already.
び片桐彼方の快進撃が始まるのか。
イメージできて。
接触スレスレの際どい攻防だ。これは言ったでしょう。
There are way too many characters in this show. See, the problem with all these characters is you can't develop them. Watch this guy's video.
MF Ghost is the worst thing since West Nile virus, but at least West Nile virus can be cured by crushing a lime green Gatorade and watching Ted. I fucking love Ted. MF Ghost is the quote sequel unquote to the most famous Japanese racing manga slash anime.
Whoa, back it up.
Oh, well, of course, I mean, it's not as popular as Speed Racer, because in Speed Racer, Speed has a gun and he kills 1 million people. A very popular racing manga slash anime called Initial D. Initial D, of course, for the uninitiated, is about a young Japanese boy named Takumi Fujiwara who joins Al-Qaeda. Takumi is a young man who gradually comes to learn his dad's tofu restaurant was actually an elaborate scheme to turn him into the greatest street racer of all time.
Pretty
The
cool.
story follows him as he gradually comes to love his new, exciting, and dangerous hobby, and cements himself as one of the most legendary drivers of all time, defeating dozens and dozens of other talented drivers in his mid-80s Toyota Corolla shitbox. Initial D captured the hearts and minds of a generation. The series functioned as a love letter to the iconic 1990s Japanese car scene, with flashy yet affordable and modifiable cars, pop-up headlights, and winding, twisty mountain roads, perfect for a new and exciting driving technique known as crashing through a guardrail and dying on impact. Sorry, I meant to say drifting. Thanks to his Eurobeat soundtrack becoming a staple of internet meme culture, being a good show, and especially his arcade game series, Initial D has...
I always wanted to play the arcade game. I can get it on the... Oh my... I get like 4 of these, and me and my friends would just sit in them. How much? Oh, wow, I want one of these in my house. One day.
has managed to maintain cultural relevance for decades. But like all good things, Initial D had to end in 2001 with the release of Third Stage. The series did technically keep going on past that and had 3 more stages officially ending in 2013. I just don't really think they're particularly good. The series switching from an underdog coming-of-age story to 2 rich kids parading around Japan with their dad's money to humiliate humble car hobbyists with their overkill team of mechanics as an endless series of who gives a fuck challenges come and go. But wait.
Right.
I've already bitched about the Project D half of Initial D before. Isn't this supposed to be a video about MF Ghost?
MF Ghost is like Project D mentality.
Ghost, the sequel series. Well, after Initial D ended, the author Shuichi Shigino tried his hand at a few other stories. There's the high school girls baseball series Sailor Ace from 2015 to 2017, which was just an excuse to draw panty shots of high school girls, and there's 2014's Amazing Hannah, about a beautiful young woman falling in love with a middle-aged manga artist. Easily one of the sadder or more pathetic stories from a production standpoint, but nothing was quite hitting like Initial D was. Try as he may to find success doing other things he might have been more passionate about, it was clear his audience only wanted more race car bullshit.
Why wouldn't they? I mean, that's like what he's known for, his Initial D. It's kind of hard to stray away from the thing that made you famous and make other things because the expectation is going to be set so high.
So he finally said, fine, I'll do it. But it ain't gonna be good. He had mentioned in interviews back in 2016 that if he were to do a sequel series for Initial D, it will be about Rally.
That would have been so cool.
The coolest motorsport, where the crowd is in more danger than the drivers, and nobody is guaranteed to leave alive. The rally racing idea was cool. It's a dangerous motorsport just like street racing, if street racing can reasonably be considered a motorsport and not a crime, and would open the door to a lot of intense and varied races we'd never seen before in Initial D. So he opted not to do that, and instead came up with MF Ghost, a sequel series set in the year 2020X in a future where self-driving electric cars have overtaken traditional gasoline cars that you drive with your hands and feet like some sort of baby's toy. It follows a 19-year-old bastard child named Kanata Rivington, a student of Takami's coming from England to Japan to search for his absent father after his English mother's death by competing in MFG. MFG is...
I feel like you could just do that. It's hard to do that because I feel like you could just find his father anyway, without competing in MF Ghost.
A racing promotion formed by a mysterious rich benefactor named Ryo Takahashi, I wonder who he is, where they race on Toge Mountain roads, but legally now, and the only rule is unified grip to weight ratio, which means heavier cars need to have bigger tires and lighter cars need to have thinner tires.
Doesn't make any sense, yeah.
That changes everything. We're back to mountain roads. Whoopee. I definitely wasn't about sick of those by the end of Initial D. The manga started in 2017, but in the last few months of 2023...
I'm gonna be honest, you can do mountain roads for your entire life as long as it's good. I don't care if you just have the same mountain, as long as what you're doing on the mountain is good.
We got the first 12-episode season of an anime series, and the reception to it was pretty warm. And that's a problem, because MF Ghost sucks and is so fundamentally bad on a level that, with all due respect, I don't think enough people really realize the extent to which this is both.
No, people aren't criticizing this. Like, I was not born with Initial D in my life. I found Initial D later in my life. I've come to found an appreciation for it and its art style because I love 90s art style. It's one of my favorite art styles. I love how it's drawn. I like everything about it. I can appreciate it. The problem is that people aren't, these newer viewers and even older viewers of Initial D, like, aren't being critical with the show enough. I don't think that's just my opinion. I don't think they're like, I don't think that they're taking the time to just really try and think about this deeper.
A terrible sequel to Initial D, but also just a terrible series in general.
Yeah, it's just bad.
I really do love Initial D, so as pathetic as it is to say out loud,
I think it would have been better as not a sequel, its own independent off of Initial D. I think Initial D hyped it up. I think it would have been better if they said from the same writers of Initial D comes MF Ghost, but it's not in the same universe.
It really does make me concerned to see people praise this series so highly when they don't even realize how huge of a step down it is from Initial D.
It is such a huge
To give
step
the
down.
series a full pass just because it has Cars and Eurobeat in it is just sad. You deserve better.
And that's all these people care about. Oh, the Eurobeat. Oh, look at all the new cars. All the GT86.
Than this. I know you don't think you do, but you actually deserve better than this.
Sorry, I keep checking this. I don't have a second monitor, which I should probably get. I can probably link it up somehow.
This isn't just Shuichi phoning it in. This is Shuichi tin can on a stringing it in. Part 1. Stuff that didn't make me wish that I was an MF Ghost. I don't tend to like making wholly negative videos. I'd rather focus on stuff that doesn't piss me off. So to keep in the spirit of that, welcome to the Positivity Hour. Well, the CG cars look fine. And you know, it is cool that for both the sub and the dub, they got Takami's voice actors back to be the narrator.
As a result, high-powered sports cars have become an endangered species.
I like that Kanata gets to have a British accent.
Back at the academy, H-pattern shifters with 3 pedals were the standard.
The dub team behind Golden Wind were pussies for not giving them all Italian accents. I like hearing an accent. Wahoo, Bruno, I want to eat the biggest meatball in Italy, wahoo! Buongiorno, wahoo, that's a spicy meatball, wahoo! Oh, and they also made the wise and smart decision to have Eurobeat during the race scenes. You know, I'm always saying it's weird when Initial D things don't have Eurobeat. So, I mean, thumbs up for that. I got my eye on you, Sun Kang. Don't do anything stupid. Part 2. Things were better before I was alive. We live in the future. In theory, this is supposed to be a good thing. My shoes should tie themselves, alleyways are supposed to be filled with cubes made of laser discs, and my car should be able to fly. The achievements of the past are supposed to build upon each other to lead us to ever-expanding heights. But this hasn't happened. I mean, I guess in some fields like medicine or technology, sure.
Back.
But have you considered that cartoons suck now?
Yeah,
and
did
cars
you see
don't
that?
The achievements of the past are supposed to build upon each other to lead us to ever-expanding heights. But this hasn't happened. I mean, I guess in some fields like medicine or technology, sure. But have you considered that—
That's an actual scene crop out from Dragon Ball Super. This was animated. Do you see how the animation style, just like, this is a pause frame of a clip in Super.
That cartoons suck now? And cars don't look as cool either. Yeah, I know they're safer and more fuel efficient and electric and cleaner and blah blah blah. Shut up. Look at this GTR Skyline. Damn, that's clean.
True.
Ooh, FCR X7.
True.
Hold up. MR2? Supra?
True.
Hot damn. I'm not even much of a car guy, and I know that when the lights pop up, shit goes down. I think it'd be hard-pressed to find someone who thinks that—
I'm gonna be honest. I completely agree with everything he's about to say. This car, the Yaris GR or the Corolla GR, it's cool. I love the car. I would love to own one. I'd much rather have a 90s MR2, an FC, an R32 GTR, an A86 over this.
The 2024 Toyota Corolla looks anywhere near as cool as a 1984 Toyota Corolla.
Have that.
I mean, maybe normal people care about
like, yeah, and here's the thing. Like, everyone has their taste, and people are gonna want the GR Corolla. Like, I want one. I would love to have one, but I'd rather have the older car. That's just my personal taste. I mean, I feel like that's more of an opinion. But yeah, I see how the modern cars are just kind of like shapeless eggs versus older ones.
Fuel economy and reliability, but that's probably a bit unfair to blame Shigino for the fact that modern cars just don't look as cool as they did in the 80s and 90s when he was making Initial D.
I think
but that is
I
a big part of the magic of that original series. They were young people in affordable, moddable, and cool cars. Cars that looked cool drifting, cars that looked cool not drifting, cars that people dreamed of having but at the same time was not at all out of the question to actually have. A GT86 is by no means not a cool car, but it's not as cool. These affordable
an A86 is way cooler than a GT86. I think a big thing that has to do with that, I don't think the Boxer engine was the right call. I think the GT86 is cool. It's good that it doesn't have a whole lot of horsepower. It has modability up the wazoo. Personally, I'm not a fan of gear ratio. I'm not a fan of the engine horsepower and how it delivers. I'm not a fan of the engine in general. I think it looks very sleek. I'd love to own. I wanted one of these. I always wanted this car. It's this one. I always wanted this one with the orange and red accents. This is a GR though, right? No, it's a GT. Yeah, I always wanted one of these.
ADM cars of the 90s have resulted in a lot of death and destruction from young, dumb street racers, so it's reasonable enough to kill off the culture Initial D was rooted in and crack down on the activity, but the cars featured in MF Ghosts just don't really do anything for me. Now, this is a highly subjective point. There are actually people out there who like expensive European sports cars, which is what a lot of the cars in MF Ghosts are.
I don't care about Alfa Romeos, like 4Cs or whatever. The Lotus Elise I would own. I don't care about Lamborghinis. I don't care about Ferraris. I don't care about Audi R8s. I don't care about those cars or BMW M5. That's just not me. I know a lot of other people do. The relatability factor, and even if I had the money, I would just buy a garage of all my favorite cars rather than just the most expensive ones.
So this isn't a problem for them. I guess I don't really have a counterpoint for that necessarily. I mean, to each his own. But like I said a minute ago, Initial D caught on as well as it did because of the roster of cars and how the cars influenced the world building, the characters, and the vibe of young, scrappy kids doing whatever they could with whatever they had. It didn't always make sense, like they all should have been hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt on replacement tires alone, but I think you get my point. They had relationships with their cars. It all felt very real and personal. If they crashed, that was a big deal. Even attempted murderer Shingo shed tears when he crashed his EG6 after he tried to kill Takumi. I'm sure
I want an EG6 so bad. I would love one of these cars.
Maybe one of the racers in MF Ghost has a really close connection to their Lamborghini that they only drive for this competition. It's not particularly relatable. You know, I had crackers for dinner, so. But the animation...
Dude, fucking Cheez-It Toasted Edition.
For this competition. It's not particularly relatable. You know, I had
These are the only Cheez-Its I like. I only like the Cheez-It Extra Toasty. They're the fucking bomb.
Crackers for dinner, so. But the animation does do something for me. Make me confused and disappointed because it's lazy. The thing that specifically irks me so much about the non-race scenes is this.
This is fucking... They didn't even animate half the scenes. Half the scenes were just real-life picture shots.
They use a lot of real photos to just be the backgrounds and environments. This one in the diner particularly grinds my gears, especially this guy who doesn't have a reflection, so I guess there's just vampires in the world now. I guess this isn't the most uncommon thing in anime these days. Apparently Bocchi the Rock does this, but it's a bit more stylized and harder to notice, at least in the screenshots that was sent on Twitter. And obviously the Amazing World of Gumball does this, but it's an obvious and major part of their art style, so it doesn't confuse and piss me off as much as MF Ghost does. I decided to check out the manga to see if this also happens there, because I had heard about the cars being traced before, and lo and behold, the manga does it too. So I guess The studio decided to adapt Shuichi's corner cutting into the art style itself.
Yikes.
I know drawing is hard, I mean, look at my attempt at drawing a car, and the manga authors are on tight deadlines, and he's getting older. You can throw as many valid reasons for pissing into my soup as you want, but at the end of the day, there's still piss in it. In general, I don't know why the 90s anime style isn't emulated more often in modern day. Like, it looks timeless and full of soul. South Park has been using computers to fake handmade art style since 1997. I refuse to believe a studio couldn't just make something that looks like this again. Even beyond animation style, the soundtrack, not even the Eurobeat, the original soundtrack is also just so bare bones and lacking.
Not as good.
First through third stage had like 100 plus original tracks, and quite a lot of them are bangers. Project D and MF Ghost default to so much boring and generic, intense music.
I like, well, okay. There's a couple, what was it called? Wing. This one was a good one. Yeah. Not Wings of Fire. No, what the fuck was it? Crazy Little Love. I thought Crazy Little Love was great.
Where to?
Home. I'm going.
Crazy Little Love was good. Come on. I didn't mind this race. This was actually the only race of this entire series I liked. You get the point.
Meanwhile, first stage, you got stuff like...
It was just that, like, the perfect 90s style was great. And then the creepy. It was so cool. Like, it was like cheesy, but cool 90s. It was just the 90s. It was great.
For the chill scenes, or even stuff like...
That's a sad one. That's
for the somber moments.
Up.
It's too 90s and cheesy sounding. Yeah, you would be scared of Cheddar, you broke-ass lactose-intolerant bitch. Ultimately, though, these are all just literally aesthetical complaints. There's actually far worse problems with MF Ghost.
Yeah, here it comes.
Part 3.
The Angels.
Honk Shoe.
Is that
this show is boring. Like, I understand that getting literally just Initial D, but again, would also be bad. But the plot of this show and the way it's executed doesn't excite me at all. From the plot outside the races to the races, there's no electricity. So I mentioned earlier that the plot is Kanata searching for his absent father, and he has two strategies. The first one is to just wander around the city with a picture he has of his parents and try to find where they took the picture. I guess the logic there is that maybe his dad is still standing there. The other strategy is to enter MFG under his dad's last name, Katagiri. MFG is super popular, so his dad might catch a race and see someone with his son's first name and his own last name, and then go, oh, fuck my son. But ultimately, this means that element of the plot is nothing. Like, have you tried like a phone book or Facebook? Japanese Facebook. The series takes place in modern day, if not at least 15 to 25 years in the future, based on the abundance of self-driving electric cars. His dad can't be that hard to find if you really
Right.
wanted to. They should have made the search room like really dark. You know, why not? Have a half motorsport, half noir murder investigation. That would at least like be something.
could've.
Have another one of the
I
racers
don't- I
be the
wouldn't
guy who
mind
killed
that.
him.
It would
I
have
don't
been
know.
something
I guess you
interesting,
could
yeah.
make the argument that his father is a MF ghost in the sense that he
He's a
did fuck
motherfucking
Kanata's
ghost.
mom and then vanish like a ghost. Anyway, if Kanata isn't racing, then the show is him wandering
True.
around the city with Ren, the 17-year-old daughter of the family he's staying with. Ren
Super
has a
weird.
huge crush on him, so every couple of episodes we get scenes of them walking around and not talking, while Ren is in her head like, "Oh, Steampy. Oh, he's the hottest guy ever. I love him so much because he's hot and drives a car."
To be honest, like there was a lot of this in Initial D2. Not a super lot. Like the whole Natsuki thing, the Mako thing, but it was good. It didn't overbearing the show. Like it was just a little side thing. It's like, all right, that's cool.
Car like vroom. So the first episode, I don't know, nothing happens. Then the second and third episode are just a time trial
Yeah.
race. Way to start off with a bang.
True. Oh, the first episode happens. Yeah, nothing happens.
But is
True.
it at least exciting? No, not really. I mean, Kanata
No.
is completely emotionless behind the wheel, and him racing doesn't really mean anything to us. Like, the camera angles they choose to present the race make it basically just look like he's driving normally. Take the first corner
Which
in the
is super
Takumi
true.
versus Keisuke race. The camera sticks really close to the cars because that makes it feel faster. It's the same reason why you don't feel like you're going fast on the highway until you look out your side window. Things that are far feel slow, things that are close feel fast. I know some people will be quick to comment, "I don't care about plot, just in it for sweet races and Eurobeat. Muscle arm emoji." So I thought before we get too far into this, we ought to take a minute and look into the cinematography and composition of an MFG race and compare it to a peak Initial D first stage race to illustrate why these suck so much ass. I'm going to choose a personal favorite, Takumi versus Impact Blue, and
There
well, I
you
guess the
go.
only race in Season 1, Odawara Pike's Peak, or as they should have called it, Odawara Pike's Mid. We're gonna ignore the
True.
plot for now and just focus on shots of the cars and the racers. Impact Blue lasts from Act 18 to Act 19, and Odawara Peak's Mid lasts from Episode 4 to Episode 9, but if you want to count the
Dude,
qualifier
oh
run,
my
it
God,
goes from
it's
Episode
so
1 to Episode
fucking
9.
long.
There are only 12 episodes, by the way. No, it absolutely does not justify being that long. Like I said earlier, in Initial D, the camera sticks close to the cars to make it feel faster, but possibly even more important than that is the way the camera moves with the cars to keep up the illusion of a much higher speed than they likely actually are going. There's also camera shake to keep in mind. It may seem like an odd thing to highlight, but it helps communicate the
No,
intense
yeah.
power of the cars. We're sticking as close to the action as possible. The majority of the commentary and what's going on comes from the drivers themselves, their point of view, their fears, and their hand movements and their leg movements. Sometimes they do just have a stationary camera, but only sometimes. Generally, the races feel very dynamic and electric. The sideline characters will cut in like a comic book, their exclamations are quick and snappy, or introduce an idea that we likely haven't considered yet. The races taking place at night also make it feel much more exciting because of the worse visibility. Then there's MFG. The majority of the time the camera
That's another thing. The nighttime races in Initial D, like the daytime races are just kind of meh. At night, it just gives this whole other energy to Initial D that MF Ghost just didn't have.
stays still and lets the cars approach and then pass it. Or the camera is the drone's perspective, so the car just stays mostly center frame. Or the cars will pass by and then pan up, usually cutting us away from the action to focus on some bullshit with the MFG Angels or Ogata or the commentators. Or slowly pan as the car passes. The choice of soundtrack is also very important, from both the Eurobeat and the original score. The Project D half of Initial D also commits this sin.
Yeah.
Because the plot is so non-existent, the races have to be stretched out as far as they possibly can, and they can't make them this exciting. The soundtrack has to be this, and the shots have to be this, while Kenta has to have some shit explained to him, which actually happens in both series. This dumbass hasn't learned anything. To be fair, MFG does have some dynamic angles and
Kenta's
shots,
in it.
but is much more rare than it was 24 years prior. MFG is
Kenta
supposed to
is,
be
like,
a
not
more
even an
reasonable
important
and
character.
realistic racing series, more technical and restrained for the smarter racing and car
I know
enthusiasts.
exactly what tires those are. Tires looked very familiar. Is it is it Advance? Hmm. Those tires look really familiar. I don't know why it doesn't matter.
Than Initial D was. But it's also a cartoon. You can do whatever you want. You can put the camera anywhere. You can present things in the most engaging and visually interesting way ever. Your predecessors literally showed you how to do this in 1998.
It is true.
So, like, what's the meaning of this? Also, the fact that it's a cartoon inherently makes it a lot less interesting when you present it like this. If these were real racers, it would be insane that a Toyota GT86 is keeping up with Lamborghinis and Porsches.
Yeah, it doesn't
but
make
it's
any
not.
sense.
It's a cartoon, so I know the only reason they're keeping up is just because of plot armor bullshit. And that's especially frustrating if you don't have if it's not presented in an entertaining way. I know Redline is probably a bad example to point to when we're talking about an anime that was apparently so low budget they had to use photographs as backgrounds, but it is a perfect example of conveying speed, just violent fucking speed, taking advantage of the medium and having fun with it. Now we're going to go back to Initial D again and look at the races from a plot perspective for the way they build up races to make something that looks like this feel intense and important. Let's take just the Kansai Drift scene, analyze how it's built up to in the first episode, and then why the execution makes it as memorable as it is, and why there's not a scene in MF Ghost that gets even close to it. First, you've got Takumi. He's aloof, quiet, unassuming, screams like hell in Ikutani's car while he's drifting, and doesn't particularly care about cars. But all his friends are super into them and the local street racing scene. He goes up on the mountain to hang out with them, and we meet the Takahashi brothers. They're arrogant and imposing, challenging the local drivers because they know they're better, and they are. They are explicitly on a warpath to conquer every course in the prefecture, leave records the locals will never beat, and retire as undisputed legends with a trail of humiliated locals in their wake. Just before that plan is explained to us, however, we get to hear a phone call between Yuichi and Bunta, where Bunta reveals that he wasn't driving the 8-6 we saw at the beginning of the episode. His son Takumi was. Takumi, the character we've seen completely apathetic to cars and screaming in the back seat of a street racer's car. A few hours pass and Keisuke begins making his way home when suddenly a car begins to catch up to him. Panic sets in as he's not used to actually having competition on the road. The music kicks in and the camera sticks to close-up and intense angles. Now Keisuke is mad and begins to take this seriously. As opposed to Ikutani's sloppy drifts we saw earlier as Takumi screamed in the back seat, we can immediately tell the massive gap in skill between Keisuke and Ikutani, the best driver on the Speedstars apparently. Keisuke's drifts are clean and fast, and this 8-6 that we now know as Takumi is sticking to him like glue, matching each and every one of his drifts in a car that shouldn't be able to do that, with a driver who shouldn't be able to do that. Even if you're not a car guy who just knows that an FDRX7 is supposed to be better than an AE86, the beginning of the episode sets up that 8-6s are old shitboxes with the conversation Itsuki and Takumi have about not even being able to afford one, i.e. damn, we can't even afford a piece of junk like that. Plus the Takahashi brothers' imposing status implies that they would just have better, sleeker, and faster cars. And of course during the Kansai Drift scene, Keisuke has plenty of "you're kidding me" and "there's no way my RX-7 can't shake an old 8-6. His confidence and demeanor is shaken, he's shown up, and even though nobody else sees it, he's humiliated by an old 8-6 performing a maneuver even he can't do. And now Keisuke, and by extension the Red Sun sights, have been set on our little clueless protagonist. A protagonist who we're also wondering, how the hell is he capable of this? Has he been lying to his friends? What's going on? In one episode they set up intrigue, stakes, and excitement. It's one of the most memorable scenes in anime history, not just because it's cool to look at, but it's cool because the whole episode is built up to it and the consequences it'll have on the rest of the series. Kanata just being another quiet and reserved guy at Takumi 2 doesn't work here because he doesn't have a supporting cast of characters pushing him to do wild and crazy things nor does he personally have much of a reason to do wild and crazy things. And anytime he does anything cool, it's just an excuse for an Initial D cameo character to chime in and say, this reminds me of Takumi Fujiwara, Kanata's teacher.
Just
and then
go
all
watch
the Initial D fanboys soy face and rate the series highly because they remembered Initial D. I think it really speaks volumes to how good MF Ghost is that so many people's favorite scene in the season was a 2-second flashback to Initial D, and the thing viewers want the most is a Takumi cameo. Why MF Ghost would be legendary? Yeah, it'll be legendary for a 2-second flashback to Initial D. That's why this show, MF Ghost, will be legendary. Because of this scene, a flashback to the show you actually like. If seeing the 8-6 drift for 2 seconds made you tear up, just watch Initial D. That car is in every episode. Initial D still exists, you can still watch it. It's actually fucking hilarious. Like, I'm not even joking here. Literally the most popular scene from MF Ghost so far has just been 2 seconds of Initial D. A GIF. I could end the video right here. MF Ghost fans blown the fuck up with facts and logic. Kanata is inherently a less interesting character because he's been to racing school his whole life. He's already an extremely accomplished racer, so there's never really any excitement when he races because we know he's a genius, and that genius will be shown to us in the most who gives a shit fashion possible. There are times when people radio him while he's driving to say, hey, keep an eye on your tires, this next section requires a lot of braking or something. Only for Kanata to say, don't worry, they drilled tire management into us at the academy so my tires are always fine. Like, thanks. I was worried the protagonist might have an obstacle to overcome. I'm glad he has no weaknesses. Takumi was entertaining to watch because his immense talent was slowly revealed to us and the other characters. We didn't know his strengths or weaknesses from the beginning, and he had interesting motivations to race that tied into his personal life and relationships. Takumi gets boring by the time we get to Project D and he can teleport and memorize every course immediately and never loses, but it takes quite a while to get there. Kanata is just that from the very beginning. Kanata just isn't cool to watch. He doesn't want anything enough right out of the gate. He has all the skills to be a successful professional racer for the rest of his life, and that's exactly what he's going to do, and it doesn't even particularly make him excited. He's not interesting at all.
He's not.
His plot outside of the driver's seat doesn't influence his plot inside the driver's seat. If the only purpose of him being an MFG is to have his name broadcast on TV so his dad might notice, it doesn't matter if he wins, he just has to continue to qualify for the next race. I understand that in real racing is nothing to be ashamed of to come in 5th or 8th or whatever, and there's a lot more opponents and factors in a big realistic race, but I'm a dumb stupid guy, and if you're not first, you're last. If you've got a character who's not just guaranteed to win because he's the main character, but he's guaranteed to win because the parameters of winning aren't that high stakes and are well within the incredible skill set he's been given in his off-screen backstory, then it isn't interesting to watch. Yeah, I'm pretty sure he can get at least within 15th place. Like, all you'd have to do is make him really want to win, then holy shit, we've got character traits and stakes. Take Gun Koma from Shuichi's first series, Bari Bari Densetsu, which I also made a video on. Even if he finished that race 2nd, 3rd, 4th, whatever, he'd still probably get sponsorships and enter the pro circuit, but that's not hype. Hype is throwing a saxophone into the soundtrack and having the main character come in first. Hype is something unexpected happening during the race. Hype is learning about our characters while they race, not just how they drive, but how they're driven. Rocky isn't a good movie because it's a boxing movie. It's a good movie because Rocky is an endearing character. Spoiler alert for a 50-year-old movie, but Rocky actually loses the fight, but it's still a beautiful, tear-jerking ending because the character was written well enough and had clearly defined goals that were met by the finale. He didn't expect to win, all he wanted to do was show everyone that he's good, and he did that, therefore, an incredible ending. Sylvester Stallone is literally a fucking Italian, and he wrote a better protagonist. Kanata doesn't have—
I'm Italian. What the fuck does that mean?
Have to win. Forget what I said earlier. As long as the races mean something to him, even if it's just to prove himself, you can make that into a powerful story. They just didn't. When it comes to MF Ghost, they're bad races both narratively and cinematically. Part 4. What the fuck? Being boring and ugly sucks, but at the end of the day, 5th and final stage were also boring and ugly. What really
ugly.
pushes MF Ghost into the fuck you zone is the part that everyone else who has seen this show is well aware of and has been waiting for me to address. The MFG Angels.
They're fucking
now
terrible.
look, I'm not a prude or anything. I don't necessarily have anything against egregious and obscene fan service. Now, I mean, I do. It makes me not want to watch the show while other people are in the house at the risk I'll be accused of zerking off to whatever I'm watching. The MFG Angels are more or less a side hustle of the racing promotion where they attract bonus viewers to ogle at the scantily clad females as the cameraman shoves his camera, like, right up in their asses. And I think they also perform songs, but I'm almost certain this never happens in the anime. Where the MFG Angels cross the line from being just something kind of weird into being the second worst thing in the show is Ren, the 17-year-old girl with a crush on Kaneda I mentioned earlier. She is an MFG Angel. She's 17. Shijino decided to make her 17 and have her employed at a job where she is explicitly sexualized for the express purpose of having people sexualize her. This is both creepy and weird from the perspective of the author having written this into his story, but now in universe it opens up an assload of questions.
You know what,
Why are her parents...
You know what, though? In Japan, I'm going to be honest. It's weird to us. I don't like it at all. I'm going to be honest, though. In Japan, their culture is a lot different. Like, that's something they do a lot of. But yeah, I get it. The fact that she's 17, it's just weird because a lot of the audience is, yeah, people from Japan, but there are a shit ton of American viewers that love it too. So it's weird. They were just, it was just really weird. The fan service was just strange.
Okay with this? Why would Ryosuke and upper management be okay with this? Why is society, a society where the legal age of adulthood is 18 by the way, be okay with this? And most baffling of all, why is Ren okay with this? In every scene of Ren doing her job, she is typically extremely embarrassed, reluctant, and shocked to learn what is required of her at this job. Ignoring the moral and ethical nightmare of hiring a minor to be a sexual object, at no point does it make any sense why she has even chosen this line of work. She is not interested in cars or racing, and she feels rightfully demeaned and objectified by her role every step of the way. It makes no sense. To make it even more troublesome, at one point she states that she thought the job was just singing and dancing and had no idea about all the other stuff, which implies that the MFG organization basically hired her under false pretenses. They must not have told her that the job entailed having your ass blasted across the screens of 30 million viewers. If they had, she would have known before it was about to happen to her. And she must have also somehow not known this either, despite MFG being extremely popular and already existing for years now. It's actually kind of impressive how just about every plot detail of the series just gets torn to shreds if you just look into it like a little bit. You know, you could have just wrote the story to make her 18, then it would have just been cringy instead of criminal. I have a fan theory that Initial D was actually written by Kiichi Tsuchiya.
You know what? I want to say that that's his theory, but I think it's just true.
Who do we think is the worst parent in this franchise? Bunta for allowing and encouraging his son to do dangerous illegal street racing, or Ren's parents for enthusiastically allowing their 17-year-old daughter to be half naked on worldwide television for 30 million viewers? Comment down below! Initial D had a little bit of fan service too. Mako and Sayuki were not allowed to just be skilled racers who happened to be female, they were also shown naked a handful of times. You know, please ignore all the jokes I made in previous videos about jacking my shit off stupid style to these scenes. I'm being woke right now. But at least those were in bonus episodes where you wouldn't really miss much by skipping them. The manga had a lot more perversion in it than the anime did between Natsuki panty shots or fantasy sequences, but at least those characters were all over 18. Takami's 17-year-old girlfriend Mika caught some fan service strays, but as far as egregiousness goes, we made it through relatively unscathed. The angels are in every episode. Granted, most of them are presumably over the age of 18, but it still feels like jangling keys in front of the cum-brained audience's faces because there's really like nothing else to make them excited in the series. Race queens are a real thing in Japanese race culture, but the outfits are a bit more conservative than the angels' outfits. That's fucking insane. But I said the angels were the second worst thing about MF Ghost. The absolute worst thing about MF Ghost is also related to the age of 17. Kyoki Sawatari.
This is where Sawatari lives.
I grew minors!
Shoki is another MFG racer whose defining character trait is that he is sexually obsessed with 17-year-old girls.
だって、セブンティーンじゃないか。セブンティーン。なんて素晴らしい響きだ。
We can at least take solace in the fact that other characters call him a freak bitch, so I guess Shigino does know that this is wrong, which only begs the question of why he decided to make Ren 17 in the first place, or even better, why he decided to write this character in the first place. Overall, I think people are way too forgiving with anime and manga creating and sexualizing underage characters. It's not cultural differences. Before April of 2022, the legal age of adulthood in Japan was 20 years old. They're a super conservative country. They censor their porn. I'm not going to act like I'm an authority on Japan's cultural relationship with sexuality, morality, and pornography, but all I'm saying is, we're Americans. We need to stop acting like we can't just tell Japan to start acting right. We have persuasion and reason on our side.
Yeah.
Conclusion.
I don't know. It's Japan. They're different.
It's just sad. I wasn't a fan of the Project D half of Initial D anyway. I thought 5th and Final Stage were also pretty rough, but MF Ghost is just in a league of its own. I can't even believe that these were written by the same person. Like, I don't know how we got to the point where the plot is barely existent, the main character has no initiative, nothing happens ever, everything at every step of the way is so lazy, so poorly thought out, so fuck it, and if they're not gonna give a shit, I don't know why we should either. I know Shigino's been in poor health over the last few years, even putting MF Ghost on hiatus a few times, and that's unfortunate. I can only hope he's not making this series because he financially has to stay afloat. And if that is the case, he might be the worst businessman of all time. But at the end of the day, all that matters to most people is the art. And this art is more like fart because it stinks. You know, it's like all those direct-to-DVD Bruce Willis movies, like, yeah, now we know why he did it. That doesn't mean they made good movies, you know? I will not be watching Season 2 of MF Ghost. I don't even know why this series even exists, let alone why it has such high ratings. You shouldn't be okay with this. You really do deserve better. Am I just a stubborn old man yelling at clouds ready to be taken away in a straitjacket screaming about how it was better when the race scenes looked like a commercial for the general car insurance, and in reality MF Ghost is a modern classic? Only history can tell me that. Either I'll be remembered as the one who is brave enough to say it,
No one's gonna remember MF Ghost.
or the one who was foolish enough to. Even if we take away all the problem.
They'll remember it. It's not. They're not gonna remember it for MF Ghost. They're gonna remember it for Initial D.
Dramatic elements. We're still left with a really boring story about a bunch of characters I don't care about, presented in a lazy, ugly, and boring way. In 12 episodes, nothing has caught my attention in the way Initial D was able to in just one. MF Ghost sucks. Watch that new TED show instead. I'm out.
Me too.